How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode on the Corsair K70 RGB keyboard. Now, in this episode, we're going to be focusing on actually testing the keyboard to see how it feels like to actually use the keyboard. Because I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube actually showing off the colors and, the new features that this specific keyboard has with it. But I have not seen any, demos or like testing of the keyboard while it was actually being used. So I figured we would do that in this episode and just sort of like get our hands on it and actually test it out. I have a feeling it's going to be very similar to the Corsair K70, which is not the RGB version, because essentially it is the same keyboard just with new colors and that sort of thing in it. But I figured we should actually try it out and actually test it out. So right now we do actually have a camera on the keyboard. We do have a game open here and we have a face cam going on. So what we're going to do here is we're just sort of going to test the keyboard out. I'm going to give you guys my general opinion on how this keyboard actually feels like to use in an actual thing, like a video game. So we're just going to start up a quick match here. Okay, so now we're inside the game, and now that we're actually getting started on it, I think we might as well talk about what specifically we need to be testing out on this keyboard. First of all, we need to take a look at if the structure of the keyboard is more sturdy than the last keyboard I had, at least, compared to other keyboards. We need to look at if the colors on it are actually very distracting, because the keyboard is being bought because of its colors, and if the colors are way too distracting when you're sitting here playing in the light or in the dark, it's gonna get annoying and you can't really be using it while you play games. So and I guess the last thing is just like the sort of the overall feel of how it feels like compared to my last keyboard. Now, I did actually have the Razer Deathstalker before, which is a membrane keyboard that very uniquely had like the buttons were very low to the circuit board. So, when I clicked the button, it really did not take any sort of pressure in order to like click on it. Now, when I had this keyboard for the first couple of like, I don't know, an hour, it took me a little bit to get used to it because, I'm not used to mechanical keyboards at all. I have never used a mechanical keyboard before this keyboard, so I can't really, I do have a mechanical keyboard, but it's like a really cheap mechanical keyboard that I bought like the first time I ever bought a computer, and it is just not worthy of comparing to this keyboard. Like if I did have to compare it, this one pretty much beats every single keyboard I've ever tried in every single way when it comes to actually the feeling of actually using it, because it's like the keyboard feels like you could drop it from a high distance and it would not break. It feels very sturdy. And when I'm pounding the keys right now, and I don't know how loud you guys can actually hear the keyboard. Not very loud, I think. When I do recording of actual gameplay, it really takes a lot of pounding for you guys to actually hear it in the microphone from what I can hear. So it's not very loud. Now, the keyboard I'm using here is actually using brown switches. It's not red switches, it's the standard switch it came out with when they just came out with the keyboard. When I got this keyboard, I had to wait till it came to Europe, which means that the keyboard had already been released in the US for like a month before I actually got my hands on it. And by that time, the brown switches had already come out for it, so I did not need to wait or anything. It was out right away when I got it. Which I think was pretty good. I've never tested any other kind of switches before. Well, I did test the blue switches, which I did not like because I need to be typing on my keyboard because I'm a multimedia designer. I code and that sort of thing. So I needed something that had buttons that I could actually use for other than just gaming, which is why I chose to actually go with the brown switches. Now, the lights do not feel distracting at all. The lights on this keyboard compared to the Razer Black Widow RGB keyboard that just came out too. Like a lot of people say, well, you should order the Razer Black Widow RGB keyboard because the colors are a lot brighter, But the keyboard itself, from what I've felt I've felt the Razer Black Widow RGB keyboard. Well, at least the Black Widow version that they made into the RGB keyboard. And from what I feel from it is that, well, basically it's all plastic. This keyboard here is metal. Like when you lift it off the table, it feels so heavy in a good way. Like it really feels like it's stuck onto the table and that is not gonna break. Now, build quality wise, I would definitely go with the Corsair keyboard. Now, with the colors, some people say, like I said, you need to go with the Black Widow if you want to get like a keyboard with nice colors. Then again, if I'm sitting in the nighttime and I'm playing a game and I'm using this keyboard, the colors are just bright enough to that I can actually see it and that I can enjoy it. To the point where if I had to use the Black Widow keyboard, and of course I haven't seen the colors on it, but if I had to guess, the colors are so bright that they would actually be too annoying and distracting when I'm sitting here playing a video game. If they're like really bright, I can't focus on my screen. It's like the keyboard isn't right in between the screen and your face. So if it's too bright, then I'm not going to be, noticing the game. So I think this keyboard has a perfect amount of brightness to it. I don't think it should be brighter than this. After some considerate thoughts, if I should say so. But the overall feel of it is very nice, definitely. This is the best keyboard I've ever not only owned, but touched anywhere. The build quality is just amazing. So I hope this can sort of give you guys some insight into how the keyboard actually is. Typing and that sort of thing, it feels amazing. So if you had to go for a keyboard, if I had to recommend a keyboard, if you're going for like the build itself, I don't know if the K70 that is not RGB has the same metal finish on the top of it. If it does, I can recommend the K70 and the K70 RGB for either reason, just because of its build quality. If you're going for the colors, if you're only going for colors, not build quality, then, depending if you like it really bright or not, you might consider going for the Black Widow. But look at the colors. I mean, I'm sitting here in broad daylight. The colors are not supposed to be very bright, and still you can see it plenty on the camera. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little test. I sort of gave my feedback on it, even though it might have been not as technical as other people might have done it. But it's more of a personal opinion here. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys later.